So today we're going to make our own trim around a door and also some trim work around a room in my house. So if you go to a place like Home Depot or any big box store, it's about 338 a linear feet. So if you need about, say, 20 feet, you do that math. And it's not cheap. It comes, depending on how much you need, it can come out to, like 60 to $150, depending on how much you need. It's about 20 linear feet. 20 times 4, we'll say, is about 80 bucks with taxes and everything. So it's about 80 bucks, and that's just for one piece of trim, essentially. If you need more than that, it could run in the hundreds, easy. So here we're just going to cut our own trim. We're going to do some sample cuts here. I'm going to let my wife pick out which kind she likes best. I'm going to use there's a round over bit, as you see here. And we're just going to do a couple samples. One's going to be a little more aggressive than the other, and I'll let her pick what she wants. And then we'll go from there. We'll go buy one piece of 1 by 10, 8 feet long, which is about $40.
Separate.
That's all we needed. So we spent $40 on this, and it took me probably about an hour to 2 to do it, do the work. Taking my time. So she picked a more aggressive one, so we're going to go with more of an aggressive cut like this, and we're just going to use a round over bit and in my trim router.
We're going to go with this cut.
Okay, so now we're going to set our table saw to about 2 3/4 inches in width. That's going to be our rips, and that we're using our sample piece here just to get general idea. Even though the old trim one piece was a little wider, about 1/8 of an inch, we're going to try to make these the same because I don't want the top piece to overhang, be a little higher on one side than the other. It's going to be hard enough to get this to level out since the door is not level in the frame around it. So we're just going to cut these 8-foot long pieces, and we're going to cut them at 2 3/4 inches, two long pieces at about 83.5 inches, and the top piece was about 42 inches or so. I think it's 42 5/8. So we're going to cut them later on the miter saw when we start cutting our miters. But right now we're just going to rip everything with the table saw. So I'm going to start a little heavy here on this cut because I want to kind of, just in case I have to adjust anything, I'd rather be a little heavy than light. Because like I said, the door is not level, so one side may end up being a tiny bit higher than the other. So we're going to really kind of go in and massage these pieces and kind of sneak up on our cuts here.
Line here. Stops at 83.5.
Okay, so due to the door frame not being level, as I mentioned, we're going to have to cut these miters a little weird on one side. So we're going to cut one at 47, the long piece, and then we're going to cut the top piece at 43. You want them to equal 90 degrees if possible. But in a non-perfect world and non-perfect houses, they settle over time. There's nothing ever level, so you're going to have to have to clean these up and make them work as best as possible, make them seamless. And I'm sure there's an easy way to do this, but this is the way I decided to do
Okay,
this.
so we have all our pieces. They're lined up. They're matched up. So we had to cut a 47-degree angle on the top miters. Unfortunately, it's not a big deal because the door is not level. So what we're going to do next is we're going to. I usually would run this through a router tail, but I have the bit in here already. I think it's going to be easier with these longer pieces just to run it with the trim router. We're going to run a groove similar to this one that we cut earlier. To give a little fancy groove. They charge about $100 for these linear feet for a door at like a big box store. We're going to do it for say $40 and a little labor.
Okay, so here I'm just getting my final measurements and making sure everything lines up before we paint this piece. We're going to paint this piece the same color as the door. First, we're going to do a little sanding, and then we're going to use the Sherwin-Williams Emerald. I believe it's like a dark gray, carbon gray or something like that effect. But we're just going to paint this. 2 coats of paint, let it dry for about an hour. And it came out real nice. I just brushed it on. I didn't spray it. And now we're getting ready to just install this frame. All we're going to do with this trim is we're going to use 18 and a 16 gauge Brad Nauer. So I'm going to use the 18 gauge just to pin the first piece up, just in case I have to move stuff around. That way it's easier to remove. And then we're going to use a 16 gauge to permanently put them up when we get everything in place and it looks pretty good. As you can see here, especially the one side, it's not square at all. It's the other side's not as bad. So that's the side we kept at a 45, but the other side we had to kind of manipulate the miters just to make them match up. Now I'm sure there's better ways to do this. I'm sure there's contractors that are going to have better tricks. For example, using nice Collins clamps and things like that nature. I don't have them. I don't do a ton of trim work. I just do when I need to. So we're just going to make this work as best as possible. And it came out really nice when it was all said and done. There was very, very, very little gap in the seam, if any. And the paint, I do like this paint, this Sherwin-Williams Emerald. It's a nice gray paint. It goes on, lays on very thick. It's pretty durable. So we're just going to brad nail this in and make sure everything stays flush against the edge trim here. Since it's, like I said, the door's not level, so we have to kind of pry the bottom and the center pieces to the edges here, so it's nice and straight, as straight as possible, at least within reason. Like I said, this isn't structural. This is just cosmetic and design aesthetics, but it's still, you wanted to make it look nice and clean as possible. Okay, so it came out nice. It's not something I do for a living. I'm not a contractor. I'm sure trim workers can do a way better job than me, but I just kind of make it work and save some money. If you went to the big box store and bought this pattern, it would have cost you probably about $100 or so, where it cost me about $30-something, and the bit was maybe $10 and the router $80, which I already had. So it came out nice. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, let me know.